Good morning, everybody. It's rainy, just for a change. Monday morning. We've had so much rain, so much flooding recently, and sadness. A lot of people lost their lives. Pray for us, and we'll be grateful for that. But it's good to see you today, or be seen by you today. Thank you for joining me. It's Monday morning, and we're talking about giants. We're talking about one of the most famous giants that's known to us as the giant of Goliath. But he was a physical giant. He stood in the way of the will of God until a little 16-year-old boy who thought differently came along, and he saw himself in his demise. Anyway, we looked at David and we looked at his approach. We've looked at Caleb and his approach of thinking differently about giants. And now we come into the book of 2 Samuel, where we see David facing a whole bunch of other giants or other people facing them on his behalf. These other four giants were all relatives, we're told, of that big one called Goliath. Now, Goliath was the giant of shame. That's what his name means. And his job was just to bring shame on David and upon the children of Israel. And he would mock them and he would scorn them. Shame on you. You haven't won a victory for so long, and shame on you. You have no right to fight with me. But you see, David knew who he was. And because he knew who he was, he knew whose he was. And that is absolutely critical. Last time we spoke about the fact that the devil would want to, in the name of shame, make you feel like the victim until you see David, who comes along and proves himself to be the victor. Let's take it a step further today. This giant of shame is going to want to tell you you're a slave, but Jesus would want to tell you you're a son or a daughter of God. How many of us in our Christian faith see this almost as a bondage thing? We see this walking with God and doing the stuff that God tells us to do, almost do it begrudgingly, almost doing it like at best, servant, at worst, a slave. And that's as bad as not being a believer at all. If we're going to take this beautiful faith that we have and turn it into a slave existence, we're in trouble. But when you look in the Bible, Satan would love to tell you you're a slave. But Jesus would want to tell you you're a saint, you're a son, you're a daughter of God. Now, in the book of Mark, chapter 5, we have an amazing illustration of this truth. We have a Jesus going across the sea to meet a demon-possessed man. Now, Jesus left with his disciples the revival that was taking place on the other side of the sea. He was feeding them, he was teaching them, and many were choosing to follow him. But one day, Jesus said to his disciples, I want you to row me to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. And if you've ever been there, you'll know that's quite a row. And the disciples thought, man, if it's this good on this side of the sea, and Jesus wants us to go there, we're in. So they put Jesus in the boat and they rowed him long and hard to get to the other side of the Sea of Galilee. When they got there, they looked and they thought, so Jesus, where's the crowd? We left the crowd back there. Where's the crowd here? And Jesus would have just smiled and said, no, we haven't come for the crowd. We've come for that guy. And they looked up into the hill where Jesus would have been pointing, and they said, but Jesus, he's a strange guy. In fact, Jesus, he's a scary guy. Jesus, why would you come all the way from that for him? And Jesus was illustrating them how much he valued a human being. Just one demon-possessed human being. The disciples thought, Jesus, where's your value system? We don't value a person like that. He's demon-possessed. He sits up there all day cutting himself with stones and crying out, Jesus, I think we should get back in the boat and go the other side. We think you've made a bit of a mistake. And Jesus with a smile said, I haven't made a mistake. Land the boat. They land the boat. Jesus walks up to this man, has a short conversation with him, and the demons leave the man. And the demons leave the man, and they rush into a whole bunch of pigs on the side of the hill there, and the pigs run into the sea, and the disciples are nothing short of amazed. But the story is this. That man went into town, and Jesus said, go and tell the people in the town what has happened to you. So he goes into the town, and the people see him. They're petrified. They think, what is this demon-possessed man doing in town? But here he is, clothed and in his sane mind. And he says, people, I need to tell you what has happened to me. And they said, nah, we know who you are, demon-possessed man. You live up in that hill up there, and you cut yourself with stones. Look at the scars on your arms and your legs. And you demon-possessed. He said, no, 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 no. And these people just lay more and more and more shame on him. Get back in your cave, you slave. You're a slave to the demons. You're a demon-possessed man. Get back in your cave. It's a shame that you should come down into our pretty little town. It's a shame on you that you would do that. Go back to your cave. But the man persists. He says, I'm not a slave to demons anymore. I'm a son of God. Out of the demonic realm of slavery and bondage to the demons, Jesus released him of all that stuff, and he became a son, a child of the living God. He went on, apparently we're told, to share his faith and his story with many people, and many thousands of people came to know Jesus because of this once slave to sin, slave in bondage to Satan, and now become a son of God. But I think sometimes, people, there is a slavery worse than that, and that's the slavery to legalism. We become slaves to the law. We become slaves to do this and don't do that. And the Old Testament way of the religious system was based in bondage to a law. God's law is good. God's law was given to protect the people. But these people, these religious leaders, had turned this thing around to make it something that it was not. And the people were in bondage to the law. That's a lousy form of bondage. And Jesus came, and because of his death upon the cross, because of his incredible love for us, he released us. We are no longer slaves to sin. We are no longer slaves to the law. We are children of God. And our religion is a religion of relationship with Jesus. I don't know. Today, as you look into maybe your life, and I don't know if you've heard this message of the gospel before, but maybe you need to think about it. Think about who's running your life. Are you enslaved to sin still? Jesus says, I can deal with that thing. That's not a big giant. I can handle that one. My death on the cross did that. Just give your sin to me. I know what to do with it. Some of us are enslaved to legalism and to religious systems and religious ways. Get out of that and into a wonderful relationship with God himself. Man, that's an awesome thing. Don't you love this? Have a fantastic day, you good people. Bye-bye.